So do we have any baker? Are you guys bakers at all?
No. I know how to cook a mug cake.
Oh yeah, nice. Mud cake. Okay, let's get baking here. What you're gonna wanna do before you start baking anything, and for you experienced bakers out there, this is a no-brainer, obviously, but it's getting your ingredients measured out in advance. It just makes life that much easier, and more importantly, it makes cleanup that much more easy for the whole family. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you'll have a list of the full ingredients here, but what I have is measured out the dry ingredients to one side. So I've got 2 cups of flour, I've got a half teaspoon of baking soda, I've got a teaspoon of salt, and I also have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. What we're gonna do is chuck all of that into a large bowl. Then from there, what we always wanna do here is just give that a little bit of a mix. We don't want big clumps in the flour. It's not a big deal for tea biscuits. Yeah, but, very basic recipe. This is, I don't know if you watched MasterChef this season. I
am.
You are? Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
So I did these tea biscuits on episode 1, and they're my mom's recipe. They didn't show the judges commenting on, other than saying they were too big, but they love them. And this is one of those recipes that I really, really love. It's really easy, but I find dessert-wise, I tried to do fancy desserts before, and that's not dessert. Beautiful blueberry shortcake here that is just so delicious, really easy, and who doesn't like a blueberry shortcake? So this is going to be the first part of it, is this tea biscuit that we're making. So again, flour, salt, baking soda, baking powder, and I'm missing something. Baking soda, baking powder, salt, flour. Yeah, we're good. We got it all there. So we're gonna get all of that into a ball, step 1. I'm gonna take my spatula here and just make a little bit of a well in the center of that flour mixture. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in the cold.
Totally frozen on my side. As long as it's cold, that's all you're looking for. So what I do, there's different schools of thought of how to do it. This is just how I was taught how to do it, is I'll cut off a half of a cup of the cold frozen butter. And then what I use is I just use like a box grater, like a cheese box grater, and grate that up. And it works really, really well that way.
You're doing a great job. Yep.
Pop that into the mixture. You're gonna wanna make sure that this butter is quite cold. It just helps with the cooking and creates nice air pockets that we're looking for in this beautiful shortcake. So obviously shortcakes are traditionally used with strawberries. I like it with blueberries. It's a fun addition. It's still, I just love blueberries. Anytime I can find a way to cook with them, I always try to do that. So give that a quick little mix there. So we wanna incorporate, make sure all of that butter is totally covered with that flour. From here, make that little well. You can add in about a tablespoon or even a capful of white vinegar. So this is really cool what we're doing here. So essentially what the vinegar will do.
I don't know if that tastes like cheese.
is curdle the milk.
You put the vinegar right in? Oh, in the milk.
Just right into the milk. So watch this, it's super cool. So just watch it, you'll see it actually start to curdle. So you'll see it all kind of coagulating and getting almost like chunky. So what we're doing now is creating buttermilk. So it's separating kind of snack. So you'll see it's just starting kind of like get a little bit chunky. You can let that sit there for a minute or two. Pour that buttermilk or that milk directly into the well and then give this a little stir. Don't worry too much about it. We just want to see a shaggy dough start coming together. So you can see how that's incorporating. It's starting, the flour's absorbing the milk. You don't want to overwork it. And whenever you're cooking with short crusts like this or pie doughs, I always like to use a spatula of sorts or a wooden spoon instead of using your hands too much, because you really don't want this dough to get overworked or get too warm, and you really don't want that butter to start melting. So that shaggy dough's starting to come together. So what I'm going to do now is pour that out onto the counter. Even if you are a non-baker, this is something I'm very confident that we are going to pull off together, and you'll be able to show all of your friends. Okay, so we can see quite a shaggy dough here. So what I'm gonna do is with my hands, bring that together. The thing with making any sort of dough, you have to trust
your fingers. A lot of it just comes with experience. You want this dough to be damp, but not wet. You definitely don't want it to be dry, but totally dry. So just if it feels a little too dry for you, if it's too crumbly, add in a tablespoon of milk. If it feels a little too wet, a little sprinkle of flour will go a long way. It really depends where you're located, the humidity in the air, the temperature, the flour you're using. But with this recipe, you should be pretty good. So that dough's looking really good. And you can see I've got it rolled out into a nice disc here. So this gets really, really fun. And this, again, we're gonna be doing shortcakes, but this is just a tea biscuit recipe that I use all the time. It's my mom's. Please enjoy it and make it for your family as well. You could put shredded cheddar cheese, some jalapeno in this, and make amazing breakfast biscuits. So I'm just gonna grab my rolling pin here, if I can find it. There we go. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to roll this biscuit dough out into a rectangle. This is very cool. The goal of a tea biscuit is obviously to get those beautiful layers. So that's what we're gonna create right now. So grab your rolling pin.
Here, anything will do. That infused bottle of maple syrup would probably work perfectly as a rolling pin.
I do have a rolling pin.
And then what I'm doing here, I'm just rolling it out in one direction. So I'm rolling towards you and back and forth. We're gonna make it kind of long.
I have a beautiful rolling pin.
Oh, nice. 1/2 inch thick right now, out this way.
Okay.
So now what we'll do next, and this is what will make those like beautiful layers that we're looking for. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the end of the dough that's rolled out, that's closest to you guys. So furthest away from you. And you're gonna fold it like you'd fold a letter. So I'm gonna take that end that's closest to you guys and fold it to the middle. I'll kind of lift that up just so you can kind of see. So I've got it just folded. This end, I just folded into the middle. Like so.
Yeah.
And then,
And we did that. We folded it
that?
into the middle.
So now I'll take the end closest to me and fold it over that fold I just made.
So you're going to fold it in again from your end.
Well done.
You don't have to worry about ever having any competition.
Ours is a little sticky at the moment.
Take a little more flour if it is, just a touch more
Yep.
flour in there. You don't want to get it too dry, so don't worry too
Now,
much.
we've got this little letter that could sit beautifully in an envelope. I'm gonna lay that back down. I tend to flip it over. And I'm gonna grab that rolling pin again, and I'm going to roll this out and repeat. We're gonna repeat that 3 times. So this is gonna give us those beautiful flaky layers that we're looking for. Okay, so same thing again. I'm gonna grab the top flap right here, fold it to the center, give that a little press, grab the bottom flap, fold it up over, and then same thing, flip it over, and we're gonna do it one more time. So we've got that dough totally rolled out now. So what I'm gonna do,
I like cutting them into like rectangles. I've got a knife here. I'm gonna cut it directly. What would this be?
He's gonna cut. Do you want to do those? Do you want to do a couple of those?
Yeah, that's a great call too. So I would say cut these in any way you want. I might do rectangles. I've done a few different shapes here.
Yeah, let Claire do one of those. For if she wants, you want to do 2 of them? What are you doing? She has a maple leaf cookie cutter.
Oh, nice. That's
She wants to
perfect.
do those. Oh,
That's
yeah.
ideal.
And then a big rectangle.
I'm gonna cut these into like little squares.
and if you have parchment paper, put that on there just to avoid any sticking. I've got these baking pads that work really nicely as well. So I'm just gonna grab that baking sheet and I'm just gonna place these biscuits directly on to the baking sheet, and I've got a baking pad here, so if you have parchment paper, would be lovely. If you don't, just spray the pan, you should be fine. So that's what we're looking at. You can even see the layers right there. Isn't that cool? As they bake, you're gonna see that rise. So what's making this all rise is the baking powder, baking soda, as well as those layers. You're gonna see how this rises up. So one last step, and this is just like a nice thing to do, I like to do, is this will encourage those beautiful brown tops to these tea biscuits, which just make them that much more delicious. So what I do is I take a little bit of that milk that we would have put in earlier, and you could even infuse this, add some maple syrup, into the actual milk itself, just to give it extra sweetness. But you're just gonna wanna brush the top of the biscuits just to encourage more browning. If you don't have one of these pastry brushes that I have, you could just use some paper towel, dip that in there, and just brush that over the top. Again, this is a lovely thing. You can make this into breakfast sandwiches. They're super, super delicious. Get creative on what you actually put into the tea biscuit dough here. You really can't mess this up. So get creative and again, follow your creativity. So these are ready to go. I'm gonna put these in the oven for 15 to 17 minutes or until those tops are beautifully golden brown. So into the oven we go. And next up, blueberries. Okay, next up, we're gonna start kicking on with this blueberry sauce. I love blueberries. It's one of my favorite ingredients to cook with, bar none. Nova Scotia wild blueberries cannot be beat. So what we're gonna do here is get your pot over medium-high heat. As soon as the biscuits go in, I'd suggest get cracking on with this. You could even do this in advance as well if you want to. So I've got this, I'm gonna turn this on in a moment here, but the fan's so loud you might not be able to hear me. But what I'm gonna do is put in the 2 cups of blueberries into the pot itself. Pop those in. Then next up what I'm gonna do is I've got some Van Dyke's blueberry juice. Just as I wanna add more blueberry flavoring here. Don't go too crazy with this because you don't want it to get too watery and too liquidy. I've got about a tablespoon and a half of that blueberry juice, and then maple syrup for sweetness, as much as you want. I'll probably put in a tablespoon or 2. This will also help with congealing it and giving it that beautiful body that like a coulis or a blueberry sauce really likes. So what we're gonna do here is let that come up to a bubble. Keep an eye on it, continually stirring every now and then just to make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom, but let that reduce for probably 10 to 12 minutes and it'll turn into the most beautiful blueberry sauce. This is amazing for pancakes. It's beautiful for these this shortcake that we are making, but something that I use a lot, even on top of cheesecake. It's super easy, it's delicious, and you don't have to pound in a bunch of sugar to make this taste wildly delicious. Way to elevate this flavor a little bit more is if you have a little bit of lemon juice, a pinch of salt will just make those flavors pop that much more. So again, let this bubble away on the stove while we're getting the whipped cream ready. This will be ready to rock in about 10 minutes. So without further ado, let's get cracking on the whipped cream. Dead easy here. I'm gonna get my KitchenAid ready. I'm gonna grab the cream from the fridge, and then we can whip up this cream because we are almost ready to assemble and, more importantly, eat these blueberry shortcakes coming at you. Okay, we're ready to rock here. The blueberries are bubbling away. I'm gonna move to the back here and get whipping this whipped cream. Obviously very easy to do. You could do this by hand if you have a hand mixer or a KitchenAid mixer like that. I'm gonna add a cup of whipping cream or just cream into the mixer itself. I'm gonna add just a pinch of vanilla extract and then some more of that maple syrup for sweetener. So no sugar added, we're just gonna use that maple syrup for that sweetness and give it that extra little maple flavor that we all love. So I won't make you listen to this whole thing, but just go ahead right now and whip up that whipped cream. We are seconds away from being ready to dig in. Okay, we're in good shape now. We've got the blueberry sauce all done. You can kind of see that's reduced. As it cools, it will congeal more and more. We've got our maple whipped cream ready to go. I've got the vessel ready to rock. I'm gonna grab the tea biscuits out of the oven right now. Let's see how they're looking. Oh, baby. Like, if that doesn't make you happy, I really don't know what will. Those are arguably one of my favorite things in the world to eat. There, you can see the layers just coming off there. That's when I cut them in that square, you kind of get that opening that's so dramatic. I just love it. But if we open this up, you can see those layers. Watch for the steam. Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. What is better than that? Literally nothing. Okay, so we're good to go. Again, you could make all of this in advance if you're having guests over. A very easy thing to whip up. You could make this the night before and eat it for breakfast if you wanted to. So to build these is very simple.
I always start with the coat first. And I would be definitely using some maple syrup on this. I always finish with maple syrup, but I'd say stack it up along the way. Scoop of cream on top of that.
Some cream on top of that.
And then I do tops. And then I'm gonna go with a little bit more of these blueberries.
Yeah. There's some more blueberries on the top.
And then I'll finish with some Nova Scotia maple syrup.
And then I'm gonna put some, there you go. I'm gonna drizzle a little bit of lavender and chai on the top.
So does that change the color? Is that like a darker?
It's a darker syrup, but it doesn't change the color.
Yeah.
No, it looks just like maple syrup.
You will steep that. Is that how it works? It just like bring the maple syrup up to a temperature and steep it?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, we infuse it, is what we call it, our terminology, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, great. And that's it. Nothing fancy. That's a good little snack.
It looks delicious.
That is looking so delicious. That is the kind of dessert I love. I'm not one of these kind of people that want like a tweezer dessert. I want something that reminds me of my childhood, that just respects and elevates the amazing ingredients, these blueberries I can't wait to dive into. I appreciate all of you cooking along. I just love farmers. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you make this at home. I hope it becomes a family staple. And again, I thank you all for having me. It was lovely getting to know so many of you. So all the best. Dig in. Let's see how it is.
Though.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I don't know where I put my spoon.
Oh.
What do we think?
Oh my gosh. That is so good.
You guys rocked it. That was all you. You guys rocked it.
That's so good.
It wasn't all us.
That was all you. It was all you.